Within the digital realm of carefully constructed personas, a woman curates her weekend, a testament to a seemingly vibrant social life. Her itinerary, a tapestry woven with brunches, networking events, and house parties, is meticulously displayed for her online audience. To the casual observer, she is the epitome of a social butterfly, a well-connected individual leading a deeply fulfilling existence. Yet, from the perspective of Arthur Schopenhauer, the master of philosophical pessimism, this woman is not to be envied but pitied. His assessment is not born from a disdain for humanity, but from a profound understanding of the corrosive nature of social interaction. He argued that the wellspring of our deepest sorrows is our entanglement with others. Schopenhauer's philosophy presents a stark counter-narrative to the modern celebration of social life. He posited that what we call socializing is not a process of forming genuine connections, but of making endless compromises. We do not build friendships. We construct elaborate facades. We do not achieve popularity. We become masters of pretense. To believe that the path to self-discovery lies in the throng of the crowd is to be dangerously misguided. Schopenhauer's writings serve as a solemn warning against this pervasive illusion. Walk into any cafe, office gathering, or weekend soiree, and you will find them. Individuals who have mistaken social validation for self-worth, who have confused superficial chatter with meaningful connection, and who have equated being liked with being fulfilled. They find solace in the constant hum of group chats, mislabeling it as friendship. They flock to networking events, deceiving themselves into believing it is a form of personal growth. They trade the tranquility of their evenings for the cacophony of parties, convincing themselves that this is what it means to truly live. They believe this relentless pursuit of social engagement brings them happiness. But Schopenhauer saw it as a profound tragedy. The very fabric of society, as Schopenhauer perceived it, is built upon a foundation of mutual accommodation and the suppression of individuality. These social beings are not exercising free will. They are succumbing to the herd instinct that governs their every move. Every interaction is a transaction, a cold calculation of social currency. They barter their authenticity for the fleeting comfort of acceptance, their inner peace for the validation of others. They surrender their true selves for the temporary illusion of belonging. Schopenhauer understood a fundamental truth about human nature that eludes the masses. We do not respect perpetual agreeability. We see through the sycophantic smiles and the constant nodding. We are not drawn to those who lack opinions of their own. We find them dull and uninspiring. We do not trust those who are always eager to please. We question their motives. The social butterfly in her endless performance fails to grasp this crucial insight. She mistakes her carefully crafted persona for her authentic self, a victim of what Schopenhauer deemed the most sophisticated deception in human existence. She believes her social life is a product of her own choosing, but in reality, she is a pawn of social conditioning. Every person who witnesses her performance is engaged in a silent calculus. The discerning observer sees the mask. The truly wise perceive the prison it conceals, and the enlightened turn away, seeking the liberation of solitude. Schopenhauer articulated a principle that the modern socialite perpetually violates. A person can only be their true self when they are alone. If one does not cherish solitude, one cannot truly love freedom. Yet the social butterfly fills every moment with chatter, drowning the silence in a sea of noise and trading her own mind for the comforting embrace of the crowd. Her existence becomes a performance for an audience that is both indifferent and judgmental. The stark reality that unsettles the relentless pursuer of company is this: the choice to be social is rarely a conscious one. It is an impulse, a pull of habit and human weakness. That evening you lingered longer than you wished. The joke you feigned laughter at to fit in. The moment you mistook superficial chatter for genuine connection. None of these were born from clear-headed deliberation. You were not choosing freely. You were being manipulated by what Schopenhauer termed the emptiness of human need. Lost wealth can be regained through diligence, lost knowledge through study, lost health through moderation or medicine. But lost time is an irrecoverable treasure. Most people do not approach their social lives with philosophical introspection. They are swept away by the intoxicating allure of company, forgetting to ask the profound questions. Do I genuinely value these conversations? Or am I merely fleeing the silence? Am I enriching my mind? Or am I dulling it with gossip and noise? Have I considered the parts of myself I sacrifice for the sake of conformity? Is this choice truly my own, or is it the product of ingrained habit and a fear of being alone? Every social engagement is a philosophical choice, a choice where the potential for loss far outweighs the potential for gain. At best, the crowd provides a fleeting distraction while time slips through your fingers. At worst, it drains your energy and leaves you with a gnawing sense of emptiness, wondering why you surrendered your precious life to it. The urge to socialize is a relentless force that has no regard for your clarity of thought or your independence. It pulls you into a vortex of noise and triviality, and by the time you realize what has happened, your inner world has been compromised. The person of genuine wisdom recognizes and avoids these traps. Their self-worth is not measured by the number of their acquaintances. They do not seek out gatherings to escape their own thoughts. They do not mistake constant company for authentic connection. The peril of a relentlessly social life reveals itself in the insidious erosion of your time and autonomy. Ordinary people are preoccupied with how they will pass their time. A person of talent strives to use it purposefully. Schopenhauer understood that solitude and self-mastery are inextricably linked. The moment you surrender your hours to the noise of others, you cease to be fully present to your own mind. The modern individual, however, does the opposite. They squander their evenings on idle chatter, spend their mornings recovering from social exhaustion, and transform their lives into a series of interruptions. When you make yourself perpetually available, you attract those who see you not as a friend, but as a vessel for their own noise. They do not seek your wisdom, they seek your presence. They do not value your silence, they consume your time. They do not nourish your mind, they drain it until there is nothing left for yourself. And all the while, you may believe you are winning the social game, oblivious to the fact that you are being quietly robbed of the very hours that could have been invested in your own intellectual and personal growth. This is the blindness of distraction that Schopenhauer warned of. The failure to see that constant company often masks a deep-seated dependency, that shallow entertainment conceals a profound emptiness, and that social approval can be the harbinger of inner decline. In a world of endless invitations and superficial gatherings, every dinner party becomes a drain on your resources. Every small talk, exchange, an interruption to your thoughts, and every weekend plan a detour from your own path. The connections that once felt optional harden into obligations, and the people who could have walked beside you become weights that you must carry. Folly, Schopenhauer observed, is not a contained phenomenon. It is a contagion. You may think of foolishness as an individual flaw, an annoyance that can be easily dismissed, but it is a pervasive force that infects the very air we breathe. Stupidity leaks, it spreads. and before you know it, your clarity is drowned in a sea of noise. It is a collective force that cannot be reasoned with, a tide that cannot be turned back. The crowd does not reason. It imitates. It does not learn. It emulates. It will not be swayed by truth. It will mock it, drown it, and call its own noise wisdom. The wise have always spoken the same truths, and the foolish, who constitute the majority, have always done the opposite. The crowd operates under the delusion that belonging creates truth, rather than the other way around. The independent mind that seeks validation from the masses will inevitably be subsumed by them. His clarity will be sacrificed for the sake of group cohesion, his judgment held hostage by the approval of those who neither understand nor care for him. Real clarity is born from solitude, not from society. Authentic insight comes from thinking for yourself, not from echoing the noise of others. The crowd will not think for you, it will think for itself, drifting from one fashionable opinion to the next, chasing noise and novelty. The fleeting feeling of inclusion lasts but a moment, while the consequences of embracing borrowed stupidity can last a lifetime. You trade your independence for approval, your clarity for comfort, in the hope of gaining a sense of belonging that will vanish the instant you dare to disagree. Most so-called friendships are merely acquaintanceships disguised by self-interest. What we perceive as the joy of friendship is often just a temporary relief from the anxiety of loneliness, an anxiety that society artfully cultivates, and then offers companionship as the cure. But the reality of friendship is far more complex and often far more constraining. Friendships do not complete you. They systematically constrain you, not just in terms of your time, but in your freedom of judgment and your authenticity. The comedy of social planning is a spectacle of wasted evenings catering to the shifting moods of others, of weekends sacrificed for people who may never reciprocate your efforts, and of values compromised for the sake of alliances that are as fragile as they are fleeting. The person who chooses solitude, on the other hand, invests their time in activities that foster genuine growth. They build skills, make choices with clarity and autonomy, and can adapt quickly to life's vicissitudes. After 2 decades, who is the freer individual? Friendships create what social theorists call expectation traps. Every promise and obligation narrows your range of possibilities. You cannot relocate without leaving a trail of broken connections. You cannot radically alter your routines because others have come to depend on your presence. You cannot take risks that might upset the delicate equilibrium of your relationships. The independent person preserves what Schopenhauer valued most: autonomy, the freedom to walk away when circumstances change, the ability to pursue ideas that ignite your passion, and the choice to prioritize personal growth over social obligation. The herd despises the one who thinks differently. It is not the opinion itself that offends them, but the audacity of wanting to think for oneself, a skill they themselves have never mastered. Every creative endeavor is a struggle against the forces of failure, distraction, and your own limitations. You are not merely bringing something new into the world. You are waging a battle against criticism, misunderstanding, and the ever-present fear of failure. Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see. And yet, we act as if sharing every nascent thought and seeking constant approval is a harmless exercise, oblivious to how it can drain our focus and dilute our originality. The creator, who admires their own concept, unaware of the corrosive effects of constant input and judgment from others, will see their vision slowly erode. Attention and solitude, the essential ingredients for creative work, are rare commodities in the social world. If you had to choose between birthing a creation in solitude, preserving its integrity, and exposing it prematurely to the crowd, watching it be reshaped, diluted, and judged, which path would you truly choose? Schopenhauer's philosophy is not a denial of joy, but a recognition that fleeting pleasures are always outweighed by the struggle of existence, a struggle that creativity alone can help us confront. True creativity is born from solitude. It is in isolation that the mind can transcend the will and give birth to art. The wise creator understands that protecting an idea from premature exposure is an act of care, not of fear. You are shielding your creation from needless criticism and dilution. You are refusing to let social pressure corrupt its potential. You are choosing clarity and integrity over the compulsion to please or perform. It is difficult to find happiness within oneself, but it is impossible to find it anywhere else. Most of our desires, Schopenhauer argued, are not our own. They are implanted by social forces that benefit from our dependence, even at the cost of our own well-being. This is nowhere more evident than in the relentless pressure to seek company and approval. From our earliest years, we are programmed to fear being alone. We are told that constant interaction is normal and that solitude is a sign of deficiency. We are bombarded with messages that a life without the constant attention and validation of others is a life devoid of meaning. But this conditioning serves society far more than it serves the individual. The world thrives on conformity, on minds that seek constant approval and defer their own insight for the comfort of the collective. It needs individuals who are distracted by chatter, obligation, and social expectation. People who surrender the precious space of solitude where original thought can flourish. A person who depends on the approval of others for their happiness is a slave. They have surrendered their will to the world. The person who chases constant company, who lives to please and be admired, is not making a conscious choice. They are executing a social program. They become a pale imitation of the collective, sacrificing their own mind for the sake of conformity. The wise mind recognizes that social pressure and philosophical truth are often in conflict. Society demands constant interaction because it thrives on conformity and dependence. Philosophy reveals that solitude is essential for the mind to flourish. Society tells you that being liked and admired is fulfilling. Philosophy demonstrates that true fulfillment comes from insight and independence. Society promises that connection and approval give life meaning. Philosophy shows that meaning arises from understanding, reflection, and the courage to resist the crowd. The truly reflective mind challenges the unexamined assumptions of the masses. Must I constantly seek approval to feel secure? What do I truly gain from bending to the expectations of others? Does catering to social pressure strengthen my mind? Or does it merely enslave me to convention? How would my thinking and creativity expand if I liberated myself from the need for constant validation? Prioritize thought over approval, the cultivation of your own mind over the demands of the crowd. Choose the freedom to create and reflect rather than surrendering your ideas to the relentless pressure of the social world. Your distraction and compromise were not inevitable. They were invited. The moment you began to chase approval, to measure your thoughts against the constant chatter of others, you were no longer acting freely. You were being shaped by the subtle force of social expectation. Society binds the mind through habit and approval, creating dependence where independence is most needed. Achievement rooted in the approval of others rests on an unstable foundation. Your work will not be valued as you hope. Your vision will not be carried forward, and your efforts will not be truly appreciated. Real significance comes not from what others dictate, but from what you conceive. Authentic legacy emerges from original thought, not from conformity. True endurance comes from the ideas you cultivate, not from the fleeting attention of the crowd. Others will follow their own paths, chart their own courses, and shape their own worlds. The time you spend trying to direct or influence them is brief, but the consequences of how you govern your own mind, your own attention, and your own creative energy will endure for a lifetime. All truth, Schopenhauer famously said, passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as self-evident. In the end, the mind thrives not when it bends to the expectations of others, but when it claims the quiet sanctity of its own space. The more a person has within themselves, the less they need from the outside world, and the less others can be to them. When you cease to allow social pressures to dictate your choices and begin to see your life as your own, you become more authentic, not less. You grow stronger, not weaker. You grow wiser, not smaller. True strength of self is not revealed in the pleasing of others or the multiplication of dependencies. It is revealed in the clarity of your thought, the independence of your actions, and the freedom to cultivate your own ideas. People sense real fulfillment not because you explain it, but because it is embodied in the way you live. The greatest of all pleasures is to be independent of others, for then the mind is free to follow its own course. The dependent mind has only one focus: the opinions of others. Every choice must be defended, every idea approved, every opportunity measured against the perception of the crowd. The reflective mind, on the other hand, maintains multiple centers of focus, nurturing personal growth, exploring knowledge, engaging in creative work, and seeking deeper understanding. This variety of focus is what makes a person truly wise. They are not selfish, but they attend to the full picture. They do not avoid responsibility, but they take it on thoughtfully. They do not reject love or connection, but they do not mistake obligation for a genuine choice. In the quiet recesses of solitude, the self reveals its true nature. As Schopenhauer insightfully noted, if a person does not love solitude, they will not love freedom, for it is only when they are alone that they are truly free. This inward journey is both a rebellion and a revelation. A rebellion against the conformist pressures of society and a revelation of the boundless potential that lies within. The mystery of the self is not a riddle to be solved, but an experience to be lived, a continuous exploration of one's inner landscape, where each thought and feeling contributes to the unfolding narrative of who we are. You stand at yet another wedding, a witness to another promise of eternal devotion, and a shadow of doubt creeps into your mind. You are aware of the statistics, the stories, the wreckage of your divorced friends' lives. Perhaps you too have navigated the treacherous waters of divorce. If so, you understand a truth that society conspires to conceal. A growing number of men are choosing to remain single, and it is not for a lack of options. It is because they have learned a dark and unsettling truth, a truth that would terrify those who still cling to the fairy tale of romantic love. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who stared unflinchingly into the abyss of human nature, would have immediately recognized the modern predicament. He dedicated his life to studying power, control, and the arduous path to genuine freedom. The 7 dark reasons why intelligent men are walking away from relationships are a testament to his enduring insights, reasons so brutally honest that most people cannot even bring themselves to acknowledge them. By the end of this exposition, you will understand why choosing to remain single is not an abandonment of love, but an awakening to reality, and why Nietzsche would have hailed these men as the wisest of their generation. Before we delve into these dark reasons, it is crucial to understand that Nietzsche was not a bitter recluse who was rejected by women. He received marriage proposals, he experienced love, and he had opportunities for conventional relationships. He chose a different path, a path not of hate, but of clarity. "What does not kill me makes me stronger," he famously wrote. But he also understood a darker corollary. Sometimes what does not kill you traps you in a life that slowly suffocates your potential. He looked at marriage and saw what most men refuse to see: a transaction where men relinquish their freedom, their resources, and their authentic selves. In exchange for what, precisely? Companionship that can be found in friendship, intimacy that can be had without contractual obligations, and emotional support that can be cultivated internally. What cannot be reclaimed once it is surrendered is sovereignty. And it is here that our story truly begins. The darkest truth, one that every man intuitively knows, but most refuse to admit, is that modern relationships are a form of financial suicide. As one man who has been through the crucible of 2 divorces put it, "After being married 2 times and all that I've lost because of it, I know staying single is the best thing to do." 2 marriages, 2 complete financial losses. This is not an anomaly, it is the statistical reality of modern marriage. The numbers are stark and unforgiving. Half of all marriages end in divorce, and in those divorces, men lose an average of 77% of their wealth. Alimony laws can ensnare you in a web of financial obligation for years, even decades. Child support calculations often bear little resemblance to the actual costs of raising a child, and legal fees alone can obliterate years of diligent saving. But the financial devastation is not limited to divorce. Even successful marriages can be a drain on a man's resources. The engagement ring, the wedding, the house that meets her standards, the car that she deems safe enough. These are just the opening salvos in a long and costly campaign of lifestyle inflation. As one divorced man shared, "It's incredible the changes you can make in a very short period of time when you are alone with your thoughts, without having to compromise every part of yourself with someone else every day." Financial freedom buys you time, the most precious of all commodities. Time to build wealth instead of subsidizing someone else's dreams. Time to invest in yourself instead of maintaining someone else's lifestyle. Nietzsche wrote of the will to power, the fundamental drive to overcome obstacles and create value. But the will to power requires resources, and relationships are resource-draining machines. The single man builds wealth that compounds. The married man accumulates expenses that multiply. Which path leads to power? Modern women, it seems, want everything and are willing to offer nothing in return. As one commenter observed, "Most women don't want to be wives, but still expect men to be traditional." She wants you to be the provider, the protector, and the emotional support system, while she pursues her own independence and self-discovery. You're expected to foot the bill for dates while she champions equality, to be an emotional rock in her sea of volatility, and to support her career while being prepared to sacrifice your own. These are not compatible requirements. They are deliberately impossible standards designed to keep you in a perpetual state of failure. The advent of dating apps has exacerbated this dynamic. When women have access to a seemingly endless buffet of men, why would they settle? Why would they work on themselves when they can simply swipe right on someone better? The result is a generation of women who view men not as partners but as interchangeable resources. Nietzsche predicted this. He understood that when traditional structures collapse, new forms of manipulation emerge, and the most effective manipulation is to make someone believe they are failing at a game that is rigged against them. The single man, in his wisdom, simply refuses to play. Nothing compares to solitude, wrote a man who has been living alone for over 15 years. When was the last time you heard someone in a relationship utter those words? You don't? Because modern relationships have become a source of constant stress, not of peace. The daily emotional labor of managing another person's moods, the endless negotiations over trivial decisions, the recurring relationship talks that solve nothing. It is a life of perpetual compromise and social obligation. I have heard countless men say, "I love being single. It's peace of mind." When did peace of mind become a luxury? Nietzsche wrote about amor fati, the love of one's fate. But you can only love a fate that is your own. When every decision requires the approval of a committee of one whose emotional state is in constant flux, you are not living your fate. You are living chaos. The single man wakes up and asks, "What do I want to accomplish today?" The married man wakes up and asks, "What crisis needs managing today?" After years of this, the companionship is no longer worth the cost. You are paying with your mental health, your time, your energy, and your peace for something that adds more stress than value to your life. It's incredible the changes you can make in a very short period of time when you are alone with your thoughts, without having to compromise every part of yourself with someone else every day. This is the dark reality of modern relationships. They do not enhance who you are. They erase who you are. Your musical tastes, your social circle, your hobbies, your goals. Everything is subject to negotiation and compromise until you look in the mirror and see a stranger staring back at you. Society celebrates this death of the self, calling it growing together, compromise, and maturity. What they are really celebrating is domestication. I choose myself, a man on the cusp of his 40th birthday declared. A man who has never been married and has no regrets. 3 simple words that represent the most radical act in modern society: the refusal to sacrifice your authentic self for the comfort of another. The single man develops his true nature without interference. The married man develops a diplomatic persona that serves the harmony of the relationship over the truth of his own being. Which man do you think creates a life of meaning? A man who was married for 26 years, now divorced for 12, confessed that what he cherishes most is his freedom. The relief he felt when the marriage ended speaks volumes about the true nature of modern relationships. They are emotional labor camps. You become responsible for her happiness, but she is not responsible for yours. You are expected to process her emotions, while yours are dismissed as drama. You must navigate her family dynamics, while she judges yours. This is not partnership. It is indentured servitude with benefits. Nietzsche understood emotional manipulation long before it had a clinical name. He wrote about how the weak drain the energy of the strong by making their problems everyone else's responsibility. Modern women have been taught that their emotions are men's responsibility to manage. If she is sad, it is his job to fix it. If she is insecure, it is his job to reassure her. If she is unfulfilled, it is his job to entertain her. You become a full-time emotional support system for someone who offers nothing comparable in return. And while some may fear the prospect of being alone, the reality is that many married men are lonelier than their single counterparts. You can be in a relationship and still be profoundly lonely. But you cannot be single and have someone constantly demanding your emotional energy. The dating game is rigged against men. Dating apps create an illusion of infinite options for women while forcing men to compete for scraps of attention. Social media fills their minds with fantasies of perfect relationships that do not exist. And modern feminism tells them they are entitled to everything while owing nothing. The result is a generation of women who view men as entertainment systems, expected to provide excitement, validation, and resources on demand. A friend once recounted the story of a divorce lawyer whose client had an unexpected creative breakthrough. After his marriage ended, he had stumbled into a state of flow, a state of focused productivity that is impossible to achieve when you are constantly managing someone else's emotions and expectations. Modern dating culture does not just waste your time. It fragments your attention until you are incapable of the deep work that creates real value. The psychological toll is devastating. You begin to measure your worth by the ever-shifting standards of another person's approval. Nietzsche called this slave morality, the act of measuring yourself by external validation rather than internal standards. The single man develops his own metrics for success. The dating man becomes addicted to metrics created by people who do not even respect him. The final dark reason, the one that shatters the entire narrative that society has constructed around relationships, is the fear of dying alone. But as one man astutely observed, we all die alone, even when you're married. I'd rather die alone than have someone next to me that hates me. This is the dark truth that most married men are already dying alone, day by day, in relationships where they are not seen, not appreciated, and not valued. They are providers, not partners, ATMs, not human beings. Nietzsche wrote, "It is not a lack of love, but a lack of friendship that makes unhappy marriages." But modern relationships are not even about friendship anymore. They are about mutual utility. What can you do for her? What can you provide? What problems can you solve? When you are no longer useful, the relationship ends. But the legal and financial obligations can linger for years, even decades. The single man faces his mortality with the knowledge that he lived authentically. Every choice was his, every achievement earned, every failure a valuable lesson. The married man faces death wondering what he could have become if he had not spent a lifetime managing someone else's life. Solitude with purpose is superior to companionship without respect. Nietzsche provided the framework for understanding these dark reasons. The choice between master morality and slave morality. Slave morality says, I need someone else to complete me, to validate me, to give my life meaning. Master morality says, I create my own meaning, I build my own empire, I become my own source of strength. The men who are choosing to remain single are not avoiding love. They are choosing self-love over self-destruction. They are choosing sovereignty over servitude. They are choosing creation over accommodation. Exceptional men have often been single during their most productive periods. Tesla, Newton, Beethoven, Leonardo da Vinci. These men did not sacrifice their potential on the altar of another person's emotional needs. They chose greatness over companionship, and the world is richer for their choice. You have the same choice. You can follow the script that society has written for you, or you can write your own story. But be warned, choosing yourself will make you an enemy of those who have chosen otherwise. Your freedom will remind them of what they have surrendered. Your peace will expose their chaos. Your success will highlight their compromise. They will call you selfish, immature, and afraid of commitment. Let them. As Nietzsche wrote, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. The tribe wants you overwhelmed, domesticated, and controllable. The choice is yours. But know this: every great person in history was called dangerous by those who wanted them to be smaller. Your refusal to be smaller might be exactly what the world needs. The 7 dark reasons why men stay single are not character flaws. They are survival instincts. Financial protection, emotional sovereignty, authentic development, creative focus, internal validation, peace of mind, and death with dignity. These are not the concerns of broken men. They are the priorities of men who understand their value. Society fears these men because they prove a terrifying truth. You do not need anyone else to live a meaningful life. You just need the courage to choose yourself. The question is not whether you will find someone to complete you, but whether you will become complete enough that you do not need anyone.